welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm Will.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Nelson. And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We're the Morning Throners, here to talk about the most exciting chapter in Clash of Kings, Arya 3.
World builder.
Huge, big chapter here, boys.
You know, I feel like you said that saying that this is probably the worst, but I don't know if it is, though. I mean,
Which worse, Kyle? Which one's worse?
It's not the worst, but like nothing happens.
It's a tone setter. It's a world builder. And I think this is some of George R. R. Martin's anti-war sentiment coming out in this chapter, just like showing how bad it is really for like the small folk, the people who really suffer from the war, is I think what most of this is supposed to be.
It's a wet fart, I'll tell you that.
Just like as basically the first three Arya chapters, she's gone from in King's Landing at the beginning of the first one to now here, like pretty much in the thick of the fighting. I'll pull up the map in a second, but like they're like west of the God's Eye. They're next to Harrenhal, which is like where the land is.
They're like right on enemy territory for sure. I mean, shit. The first half of the chapter is basically them walking through this narrow wooded. It's kind of weird. Like they say, like the new spot that they come to gives way to forest, but I feel like they're in pretty much a forest the whole time. No,
that's what it kind of sounded like.
She said there was more farms and stuff before they turn left, but then it doesn't really make sense because after they turn left, she's talking about like stealing corn from farms and stuff. But like the road is definitely just like not nearly as traveled, and if it is, it's probably by people on foot or horseback, not people with like big ass wagons. And stuff.
I think before we get into that though, I mean not before we get into that, why they're there. Like so they've detoured off of the God's Road, or not the King's Road.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the God's Eye, King's Road.
We're a little late into it. Glow, why don't you give us a last time on Arya?
Last time on Arya 2, she was traveling with the band of brothers, basically going to be the Night's Watchmen. The last time we saw them, though, there were gold cloaks coming after them at one of the inns. It wasn't in at the Crossroads. I forget which one it is, though. And basically, Yoren scared them off, saying, "Yo, we're gonna fuck you up if you try to take us." And he's like, "All right, well, we'll be back. See you, Yoren. See you in a little bit."
Take him. Coming for Gendry.
Oh yeah, they wanted to take Gendry.
They added Yoren's head into it. There too, because he was being a little
bitch.
Yeah, but he was gonna nick them.
Yeah, he was gonna cut off their balls. So they got away, and now they're like trying to run away from the Golden Cloaks, and that's probably why they veered from the King's Road.
So what's the scribbly line? Is that where
we don't really know where they left. The scribbly line is where I'm assuming they left
somewhere there,
and they're going somewhere close to the dotted line.
But they don't reach Lord Haraway's town, do they? Or
no, they just start talking about how they start going north.
Yeah,
like towards the end of the chapter when like that town is burnt,
Briarwood or Briartown.
Well, I think they passed that earlier, but they come across like an actual burnt holdfast, right? That only Yoren goes into with a couple other guys. That is north of where they camped the night before. So, like theoretically, by the end of the chapter, they're at least turning towards the north. They might not be going straight north, but they're close to the west bank. And again, we don't ever hear about the water, right? So they're not like necessarily like on the bank of the river. They're just on that side of it.
Go up the west coast to the God's Eye. But you're right. They didn't mention like the water was off to our east. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like I was saying, like towards the middle, if they're towards the end of the chapter, if they're going north, if you look at the dotted line, where the dotted line in this picture is going north, they're like in the middle of the fucking war. They're right in between River Run and Harrenhal, which is where like the two main armies are.
And it's got to be where they're like. I mean, we see one gets burned down. Like, how many more kind of little holdfasts are burned around?
All of them.
What they walk by.
It's gotta be all of them.
Yeah. I mean, even on the King's Road, they were passing graves and stuff, right? So like, it wasn't good on the King's Road.
It's also really crazy. I'll wait for it, but like to be already done your food, like that's just poor planning.
Yeah, they have not gone that far at all.
But all right, so they're walking down these narrow paths, and Arya's kind of looking over her shoulder. She's pretty scared, you know. Which I don't know. I think she tries to be brave most of the time, but she's definitely scared here.
I mean, the only time you can be brave is when you're scared, bud.
It's true. That's Ned. That's a Ned.
Yeah.
Ned's
did she say that on this?
She did not. In this last one, I think, when she was going to jump out of the behind the wall or wherever.
So again, this chapter is kind of like the one in the Sansa after all the shit happens with Ned in the first book, where like we get like 2 weeks worth of time passing in like a single chapter, and it's kind of like chronologically. She's just like, one day this happened, one day this happened. Now we're on the dirt. We're like, when the chapter starts, they're on the dirt road, but like we don't get like the whole story of Yoren saying like, oh, we're going off the dirt road until I have it through the chapter. So like whatever. A lot of this shit's gonna be like maybe out of order or whatever, but yeah, the whole chapter is kind of like taking place over the time from when they left, pretty much the last chapter till now. Arya's basically just catching us up. And the only time that seems like real time is like basically the burned village at the end. Is like the only time that seems kind of real time.
The one big difference, even like Kyle pointed out, they're obviously not on the King's Road now, but they've even started like sending out like watchmen and kind of scouts ahead.
Sentries and scouts. Yep.
Yeah. So they're definitely waiting for the Gold Cloaks to come back. They mentioned that this road is a lot less traveled, so they're not too worried about someone pointing the Gold Cloaks in their direction of where they're going to go.
Yeah, and who do they send out? The names don't really matter, but kind of what you were saying, Jeff, is now that they're out of food, they send out the poachers, the people who have been arrested for poaching. Yeah, so these guys can come back with more food every night because they don't have any food anymore. They have to go and get their own food.
I mean, if I'm just Yoren, right, you got a long road ahead of you. It seems like they got a decent amount of people too, right? Like they're around 20-ish, 30.
I think, right?
You would think like you would send them out right at the start, like try and hunt while you go. Let's see if we can like build more of a food storage.
Well, a deer is like enough meat for everybody. It's like that
should last a couple nights, right?
It might not be like a hearty 3 meals for days.
Why not do that right away so that when you can't find a deer, you still have some food.
Yeah, then you chew on the salt beef or whatever you get, but
just. I mean, that's the other side of it is you got to cure it and stuff then too. Like you can't just transport it.
Yeah, I'm assuming if you do kill the deer, you just kill it right away.
No, yeah, I mean, I understand
or
why
cook it
they
right
don't
away.
Have a lot of food. Just because
like, where does Yoren get money?
Yeah,
I mean, he's got to have like a little bit of a pouch. He only throws him some coppers for the course.
Give him some.
I'll go into this because like we don't really have that much else to talk about in this chapter, but like the wall doesn't really. I think theoretically they're supposed to get like taxes from Winterfell, so Winterfell gets all the taxes from the north. Winterfell gives a percentage of that to the wall, and then a percentage of that to the king. I think it's how it's supposed to work, or maybe they're supposed to get taxes from the king.
Yeah.
But the majority of their own food and stuff, they're supposed to grow themselves, right? An ancient queen, I'm sure we hear about it in like book 3 or 4. It's like just a name drop from like 150 years ago. Gifted a bunch of leagues, 20 leagues. We might have even heard it already. 20 leagues south of the wall to the Night's Watch, so that they can farm. Like all the land for like 20 leagues south of the Night's Wall is owned by the Night's Watch for them to farm their own food and stuff like that.
I don't think we've heard about it yet.
Sell that. It's not. I don't count that as.
It's also like
if history, but it doesn't seem like they're giving a lot of What I'm saying is, it doesn't seem like they're giving a lot of sustenance from the realm. They're like, hey, here's your land. You can grow your own food, sell your own food, and make your own money. Right?
And to that point, Yoren even says like, oh, back in the day, like we would have been,
exactly.
They would have taken you would have taken care of us, and now you're like guarding.
Even if it's different, and even if they are supposed to be getting taxes, what kind of like in King's Landing, I doubt Gior sent him with money, right? Because if you're going to King's Landing to the house where like you get your money from anyway, just be like, tell them to give you people and food for the ride north.
Yeah, I bet he sent him with money, and he's
got to have a small change
purse. He needs to send him some money,
and I bet that at the same time, kind of the opposite of what you were saying before. I bet that typically, like he said, they expect to get helped along the way, like the whole way, and so. This is kind of out of the ordinary to be scavenging themselves, but the times are different as well.
Yeah, if it's not wartime, maybe they're not as untrustworthy.
Maybe I'm thinking the Night's Watchers have been treated this poorly for like the past 50 years, and Yoren's thinking like, 100 years ago you wouldn't do that. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like this is the first trip.
Even him, he's been doing it for 30 years. He's been doing.
He's only been doing it for 30 years.
I mean, do we want to just jump around because like I can? But
I mean, we can jump around in this chapter. I don't think it matters. This chapter, I don't think it really matters at all.
I kind of got a timeline, but we might as well jump around.
It's going to be hard to keep track of if we miss stuff, but
Well, I mean, he said he only ever lost 3 people.
Mm-hmm. So wasn't that in the last chapter? Or was that this chapter?
End of this chapter.
So to only lose 3 people makes it sound like they were never really that hungry, I guess is what I'm getting at.
And like never that cold, if it was.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Are you sure he said that in this chapter? Because
last chapter they buried. I just fucking read it.
Last chapter they buried because listen, last chapter they buried Pate at the end, and I remember having this conversation because I just edited it because we said like, wait, Jorn said that he's only ever had to like only 2 people ever died on him on the way to the wall.
3 and 30.
Last chapter they buried Pate, and I was like, wait a minute, this
Been
is
bringing men to the wall for close on 30 years. All that time, I only lost 3.
Okay, I'm sure they talked about this last chapter too because we talked about it because when they buried Pate at the end, we're like, wait a minute, Jorn has already only killed 2 people already.
So this is 2?
This is the 3rd, I guess. He said 2 in the last chapter, and then they buried Pate at the end, and we talked about it.
No, this would be number 4. Because he says it was somebody that got bit by a snake, somebody that tried to kill him, and then an old man died of fever. Unless Pate is the old man that died of fever.
Maybe.
It could be.
I don't even remember Pate fucking
Was he
dying.
the old dude? There was an old dude that had like a cane or something.
Yeah, didn't he get sick?
Yeah, let's say it was
Yeah,
Pate.
he got sick on the road. We were talking about it because they saw graves and then they buried one, and Jorn's like, nobody's ever died, or 2 people. I've only ever seen 2 people die, or something like that. And they buried Pate, and we talked about it.
All right, well, whatever. It's minuscule,
Doesn't
but
matter.
it is mentioned here. So just let's get back on track a little bit. Arya's been sneaking around. I think she's kind of trying to test herself, and she's trying to be quiet as a shadow. One, she has to take a piss every now and again, so she's got to do it anyway. But she's even like trying to I guess fuck with these guards. Like she doesn't even trust them to keep watch.
She doesn't trust them, but she also thinks like she could ride away, but she doesn't want to do that because then she doesn't know to watch her back or anything like that. But Jorn, in the last chapter, Jorn gave her a good horse.
Yeah.
Right?
To let her ride
her
off
and
if she
Gendry
had
a
to,
good horse. Maybe it was the first chapter because didn't Pate die at the end of the first chapter when they were leaving
Maybe.
King's
I don't
Landing?
remember.
The second chapter was all
the first chapter.
You're so nutted up
Either
over
way.
Pate dying and doesn't matter at all.
Either way. I'm just thinking because they were at the end most of the last chapter. I don't think Pate died, but it doesn't matter. So they were saying that everyone treated the bull special now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because after all the men came,
Queen
they're
wanted
basically
him.
like, oh, fuck, who is he? And Lamy thinks that he might be Ned's bastard.
He's close.
He is close.
He is close.
Lamy's got good instincts.
Yeah, Arya takes that one to heart, and Gendry wanted nothing to do with it. The bull just would tell everybody, like, go fuck yourself. I'm nobody. I was just an armorer until my master basically told me, go fuck off. And we heard how that, in the last chapter with Tyrion, we heard how, like, where that came from.
Like, it wasn't like Gendry was a slave. Why couldn't he have been just like, no, I'm not going. Like, I'll go armor somewhere else. Like, he didn't have to go to the wall.
I guess he could have tried that, but
What? I mean, where would he have gone?
Anywhere.
He doesn't know anybody.
He could have got a sack and just like walked to the next city and been like, hey, I'm an armorer. Can I be an apprentice here?
Or just like down this road, this street of steel is full of different armors.
Yeah.
Just be like, yo, I'm an apprentice. I used to be an apprentice for this guy. I know he's like your arch rival. I'm pretty good. Hire me.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Look at me.
You know what I mean?
Look at this helmet I made.
I mean, I think you have a point there, but I don't know. We don't really hear anything. I don't know if it's worth talking about.
His master kind of put the precedent, like, no, you have to go, like, not scare him, but like, dude, you have to go up there.
Well, it seems like
sure
he had like a
just get the
solid
fuck
working
outta here.
relationship with this guy, but at the end of the day, if he didn't want to go to the wall, he could have been like, nah, I'm good. It wasn't like he was a criminal or anything, like being sentenced to the wall. This guy just like told him.
He kind of is. He was wanted by the state. Like, I mean,
he doesn't
not
even know
publicly.
that. So, like,
I know, but he wouldn't have lasted
point,
very long.
To Jeff's point, he like, what happens if he argues? Do they tell him like, oh no, you're a fucking
hey,
important?
no,
the
the queen's actually trying to kill you right now. Like, you need to go. Like, he just doesn't. Not saying that it's wrong that he is there. Like, obviously it's for his safety, but
I think he probably just didn't question it too much and just like, all right, fuck it, whatever. Because he's just like, kind of
all right, I guess I'll go be an armorer there and have food and whatever. But just curious, like, he didn't have to go.
Yep.
He probably would have got caught by now, but whatever.
So that's when they start talking about where Yorn's like, yeah, we're gonna not be on the King's Road anymore. We're gonna go around the God's Eye until we get back to the King's Road on the Trident. Basically, we're going north to the Trident.
Once we cross the Trident, we'll be safe.
Which, I mean, is it that much safer up there? Like, you would think that there's rumors of the fighting going around. Like, hey, they're fighting by River Run and they're fighting.
For sure, but right now I don't think they're going
Harrenhal.
through the woods to avoid fighting. Like we said earlier, there's fighting everywhere. I think they're staying off the King's Road to avoid the Gold Cloaks. And I think he's saying once we get that far, there's no way the Gold Cloaks follow us that far.
But to that point, too.
They have friends.
Like I don't know if they have that much more friends. I mean, he thought they would have friends where they are now, right?
But
like,
I mean, I think he knows that
no
the
friends.
north is.
I mean, but where that's not the north. That's not even halfway to the Twins.
But I mean,
I think is what Jeff's saying. They're just as close to Harrenhal there as they are now. They're just on the northern side.
And like, all right, you're afraid of the Gold Cloaks. Really, you would think if word had traveled, Cersei would have sent word to the Lannister army, like there'd be word out, like, hey, like watch out for these.
I mean, Euron doesn't seem to give a fuck which army it is either. Like when they come across the burned town, he's like, we don't know. I don't know those banners. I don't know which army that is. I don't give a fuck if they're north, south. They're going to take our shit. The
Starks aren't going to be looking for Gendry. The Lannisters are. So, like,
I guess. And then, but even later on, he says to Arya, like, when she tells him about wolves, she's like, the only wolves you should be worried about are the kind of man skin. Right. So, like, even I don't think Euron trusts. I don't think he's gonna like. I don't think his plan is to find a Stark army and be like, "Look who I have."
I don't think he meant the Starks.
What do you mean in wolf skin then?
I think he just means like man skin. Men,
like just
like evil
bad people,
the wolves in sheep clothing. You know,
I definitely. I 100% take that to mean Starks. People refer to each other as like Starks, and like there's lions in the west and there's Starks in the east and stuff all the time.
Wolves
I think he's. Why would he tell a Stark to be worried about the Starks?
Yeah, why wouldn't he say wolves and lions in
I don't think he gives a fuck about any of the armies. Like, unless he sees, like, Ned. The only person he knows is Ned. Like, he's not just going to see somebody and be like, oh, you have a Stark banner? Here you go. Hopefully that turns out well. Like, that's not what Euron's about. He's taking her to Winterfell or bust.
No, but if it was, like, the main part of the army and he was like, hey, let me see
For
Robb.
Sure.
Like,
if he ran up to Robb, but even if like the Blackfish comes up, he's not going to be like, you know what? That's probably the uncle. You know what? This will probably turn out well. I'll tell him who it is. Like this guy's probably honorable.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Euron's not going to do that. He'll be like, he'll not say a word. Maybe Arya will be like, I'm fucking Arya, right? But he can't help that.
Yeah. All right. So this is.
I think he's saying, I don't give a fuck about who anybody is. We're going to Winterfell is where we're taking you.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Like, see the job through. All right, so this is where we get to the part where we've mentioned it. The food supplies are low. Costs and Kurz are going out ahead and hunting, and usually they must be pretty good because maybe it's not every night, but maybe whenever they come back, they bring back a deer or like a bunch of quails. So they are getting some food. The younger people go out and forage for berries or whatever they can find, apple orchards and whatnot.
Stuff, yeah.
Arya does something pretty cool.
She kills her own rabbit.
Smacks the tree out of it.
From the tree. She jumps off a tree. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, does she jumps off the tree to kill the...
Well, she said the rabbits are faster, but I was faster on top of the tree. So I feel like she like snuck up on them and then...
No, she said but they couldn't climb trees half so well. Like, meaning that they had no escape. I think she just chased it.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Into what?
Surrounding wasn't earlier she was on top of the tree and thought she could scare Lami?
Yeah, that was Lami when she was taking a piss.
Yeah,
I feel like
she was sneaking out.
I thought I thought that was playing off of her sneaking around. Like she snuck up on this rabbit through the trees.
Well, throughout the chapter, she's sneaky, and either way, she's definitely sneaky. She's kind of got like a little brand in her with all the climbing in this chapter. She's climbing trees left and right. Definitely being sneaky. She gets this rabbit. They bring it back. They stew it up. She gets a whole leg because she caught it. She shares that with Gendry. Everybody gets a spoonful, which is just got to be like,
oh my god, that's
completely pointless.
Hopefully, it's like a big ladle. Hopefully, it's a big ladle.
That's it's got to mean more than just like a spoonful. Yeah,
I feel like
teaspoon.
They should be able to make like some broth. Like maybe it's not like hearty soup with nothing, but like hey, like. Throw some bones in there and some... Yeah,
make a broth.
Just try and do something.
Some bone marrow and shit.
Some bone marrow.
They can give them to the fucking shades.
Wild onions.
Yeah. But you would think that you could make a little bit more than a spoonful for each person, but hey, it is what it is.
I mean, it's one rabbit.
I mean, just one rabbit, yeah. But even the 3 in chains gets them. So Jaqen thanks her, and then like Roar's just like laughing at her and says like, there's a hunter, lumpy face, lumpy head, rabbit killer. Then they come across a holdfast. Right, Briar White.
This is where they get in trouble for stealing corn.
Some corn, stealing the ears.
How many ears of corn do you think you get for some copper? What's the going price for corn?
I don't know, but they had to steal at least 30 ears, right? There's 30 people. Everyone gets 1 ear, at least, maybe 2.
Yeah.
So then they get stopped. They're like, you got to pay us for those, and then they. Euron throws the coppers at him. It says, there was a time where a man in black was feasted from Dorne to Winterfell, and even the High Lords called it an honor to shelter him under their roofs. Now cravens like you want hard coin for a bite of wormy apple.
This guy comes back at him like with some disgust. Like, oh, you
like,
dirty
all,
crow.
Corn, you piece of shit.
And he's like, and it's more than you deserve anyway. And he's like, you better get the fuck out of here now before I stake you up in the field. Stake him up in the corn to scare the other crows away.
Yeah, that's a bold...
Isn't crows, Nelson.
Huh. What?
It's to scare the other people away. that are going to be stealing the corn. So this whole thing, like these guys aren't watching for them. They're watching because their towns and their places are all getting raided by everybody right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I thought it meant like, hey, we'll just make you a scarecrow too.
Yeah, and you're going to scare everybody else that's trying to come steal the fucking corn.
I guess it's definitely.
I
wasn't thinking that, but it completely makes sense.
People is pretty good.
Scare the other crows away. He's calling them the blackbirds. He said that blackbird like you deserves.
So this is an interesting thing that people bring up, that crow is a term that, again, I don't think this is spoiler, people use to refer to people on the Night's Watch. Normally, only wildlings refer to Night's Watchmen as crows. So, like, there's a lot of theories like, oh, there's something weird here because this person calls him a crow and we only ever hear that like 2 other times south of the wall. I don't think there's anything to it. I think it's just a term that some people know of to talk of like the Night's Watchmen because they wear all black.
Yeah.
Just like it's a term for Night's Watch brothers. So I thought that's what it was a play on. Like, but even then that could be like to scare away the other Night's Watchmen that will come
or
this
just
way,
anybody
like
who thinks about stealing. Like,
I think it's just any scavenger.
Get hung up here.
That's what he's saying.
Scare people.
Well, yeah, I definitely get what you're saying, Kyle. I just took it as a play on the Night's Watch and crow being the same term, to scare the other crows away. As in, like, I'm going to hang up a crow to scare away the other actual like bird crows.
Yeah.
So I kind of took it the opposite.
I'm sure it would have worked.
Either way,
I'm sure it would work
works.
to scare the. I mean, actually, do the crows? Are they kind of like vulturish? They might like peck at a dead body, so maybe it'll attract.
Crows are scavengers for sure, man.
Yeah, so they'll attract crows other than.
Well, I mean, what do you hang in a cornfield? Is a scarecrow?
Yeah, but not an actual person.
I know, but the point is to scare away birds, right?
Yeah. But if it's an actual person, it would attract.
All right, guys, it was just a threat. Can we,
All right. Well, what's next, bro?
What's next is as they're leaving, they take more ears of corn.
So Koss is out being what's it, a sentry? Central? What's the word?
Sentry.
Scout.
He's out scouting ahead. He sees a group of about 20 to 30 men that seem pretty banged up, and one person's kind of screaming. They might be dying. So we don't get much.
They do have like helms and like little bits of armor and spears and shields. So they're like not just like schmucks and peasants. Yeah. They're like army people who got hurt in a fight probably.
And they do have one sigil, but they don't really know who it is, right?
A spotted tree cat, yellow and black on a mud brown field.
What the fuck's a tree cat? Like a jaguar?
I guess so.
Like a bobcat.
Bobcat?
It's a spotted cat. Yeah, like a bobcat, right?
I don't think bobcats are
20 years.
Bobcats aren't.
I thought a jaguar kind of looking thing.
Jaguar leopard thing.
Yeah,
bobcat.
Bobcats don't look like
bobcats aren't spotted.
Are like mountain lions.
Bobcats are like the little ones, right?
They're smaller,
like twice the size of a house cat normally, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're spotted.
They're not spotted.
Yeah, they can be.
Can they?
Yeah, I thought so.
I haven't run into many bobcats.
Not like a leopard,
southeastern PA, but
I think it's more
bobcats.
Like
that's like you're gonna definitely run into a bobcat here way more than a jaguar. What are you talking about? There's
but I know a jaguar has spots.
Jaguars are all black, aren't they?
Maybe I'm thinking of
or a leopard.
A leopard. Yeah, definitely a leopard.
Jaguar. I don't think that's like a.
But jaguars can be spotted too. Not all jaguars are black.
Marked with spots or stripes. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
There, Bob. Yeah, that's what I said, right?
Yeah, that's bobcat. Yeah, I didn't say you were wrong.
I didn't think they had spots.
This one's in a tree. This one's in a fucking tree.
Yeah, I'm not.
For all the audio, I mean, there's no video, but like Kyle just pulled a bunch of pictures of bobcats.
All right, we'll give Nelson this one. He's never right, so we'll let him be right this one time.
Fine.
All right. Even though it sounds like these guys are pretty beat up, they make the decision to go around them, which takes 2 days more of their trip.
But who really cares, right?
They've already been set back. We glossed over all the bullshit at the beginning, but like, there's nothing is going right on these trails, and like they're like weeks behind anyway.
And what Jeff was saying, he says you got your whole life to spend on the wall with a few more days.
What's a few more days?
So then they pass more. Then they see more guards on the fields as they go,
and it's becoming like harder, right? Like people are riding. There's a bowman up in the tree.
Yeah, and he's like, Yorn gets pissed with the bowman, cursing at him. He's like, let's see how he likes it when the others come and take him, and he'll be cursing for the watch, screaming for the watch then.
Yeah, like I said, I think Yorn is taking this way too personally. I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at before. Like,
he definitely seems really grumpy in this chapter.
Well, Arya says at one point
wasn't
we
like
skipped over.
He wasn't super cheery in the other chapters, but like, yeah, his situation has got from bad to worse. Like, he was doing something risky. At the end of last chapter, he's like, "Fuck! It came out to bite me in the ass, and now I got a real problem on my hands." So he could just be grumpy for that reason. I'm sure that's not helping either. Like I said, I have a feeling that like just from like the context clues from like what we hear, I don't feel like 10 years ago before this war that like Yorn would be being feasted from Winterfell to King's
Maybe not
Landing.
feasted,
You know what I mean?
but not hated.
Yeah,
Not
not
getting
hated
yelled
at
at,
all.
but I think it's just because
Maybe you can
stuff is
take an
more
ear or
plentiful,
two of corn without
and no one
getting fucking
notices.
bitched at.
Well, because no one notices because there's not like a food shortage. Fields aren't being burned. No one even.
Well, that's
notices,
exactly
right?
it. Yeah, it's like these people have already seen like the worst of humankind, the wolves in manskin, and and they're trying to protect what they have. Yeah, exactly. So it's they don't give a shit who it is. You're not them.
So then the next night, Dauber spots a red glow in the evening sky and says they either turned the wrong way around or the sun was setting in the north. And Yorn climbs a tree and he's like, "Oh fuck, that's a big ass fire."
But the wind's pushing it.
Wind's going the other way, so they don't have to be too worried, but they should keep an eye on it. And it got bigger and it looked like the whole north was ablaze, and by dawn it was gone.
That's
wild.
wild.
No one slept too good that day.
No one slept. Why would you sleep? That's scary.
Yeah. So then when they get up on it, Arya, like they actually see like they stop before like Arya gets too close to the holdfast, but like she describes what she sees like around where the fire was. Somebody read that. Like,
let's do a quick hot minute on Arya kind of being
fields.
stupid and like riding out on her own a little bit.
Well, that happens even more later on, right?
I feel like I thought it was as they walk
It's
up to
happening the whole time.
Briartown.
She's like, I ride as far as I can ahead, and like.
Well, she says that particularly once they bring people back from this town because they're making
right,
noise.
right,
She says
right.
that she
Yeah,
starts
it
riding
does
ahead,
come up.
and then she. Yeah, we'll touch on it a little bit later.
Yeah.
Somebody read this quote real quick.
The fields were a charred desolation for miles around, the houses black in shells. The carcasses of burnt and butchered animals dotted the ground, under living blankets of carrion crows that rose, cawing furiously when disturbed. Smoke still drifted from inside the holdfast. Its timber palisade looked strong from afar, but had not proved strong enough. Riding out in front of the wagons on her horse, Arya saw burnt bodies impaled on sharpened stakes atop the walls, their hands drawn up tight in front of their faces as if to fight off the flames that had consumed them.
Yikes. That's some fucked up shit there.
Completely burnt. Those people are absolutely fucked up.
Can you imagine just being impaled, one, slow death, and then you're set on fire?
Yeah.
That's
good.
awful.
Yeah.
The lad
Bad way to go.
Taylor.
And again, like this is what I'm saying. Like, not much has happened in this chapter, but I think we hear a lot about war, right? And a lot of the chapters are like Brendan coming back from the last cat chapter. Brendan coming back and be like, "Yo, it's bad out there. Like, literally, they're just burning Holdfast and shit like that." And it's different to hear about it inside a castle and then be a 9-year-old girl, literally seeing burned bodies on stakes. And like having like a one-armed, like we didn't get there yet, but a one-armed woman be carried back to you who's just like in complete shock. Like that's traumatic. It's a traumatic thing to see as a child, right? So, and Arya's going through all this shit right now. Kat's hearing about it. We learned that this kind of shit's going on, but I think this is kind of George's like anti-war sentiment. So like he was a conscientious objector from the Vietnam War, right? So because he had written a novel about how bad war is previous to the Vietnam War, he was able to use that as to get conscientious subjector status, which basically just means like, I'm so anti-war, you don't want, like, I'm so anti-violence, like a pessimist, you don't want me in the war. Like, even if I get drafted, it won't be good for you. Yeah. And you do like volunteer service or whatever on behalf of America instead or whatever. But he got that because he had already written, like, one of his first novels was or short stories the whole theme was anti-war.
Isn't it good?
I don't know. I didn't read it, but
wow, not even a fan of his stuff.
I've written a few of his other stuff, but not that one.
Red.
I don't even know. Red. I don't even know if
he wrote it too. He took the time to write it.
It's a Game of Thrones word written. We'll get to it later. But yeah, like I go off about George's like ideals a lot more in the spoiler section. Jeff gets pissed at me, but
no, I don't.
I thought I'd just touch on that because there's not much going on in this chapter, so I feel like there has to be a little bit of that. We don't get into themes too much in this podcast. Glow tries to sometimes when he's getting smart in the spoiler section, but
yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Nuss. We're not seeing anything but bad shit, right?
Yeah,
People
and there's not like much plot progression, right? If you take this chapter out, The only thing that doesn't make sense is, where did this 2-year-old come from in Arya's story? That's the only thing that doesn't make sense.
And you
like,
could say
how
that,
they get a little bit further
but
off
you
road.
could literally say that in a sentence, like, we came up on this burned town and we found a 2-year-old and
after we
a
turned
dying
off from
lady.
the King's Road and went to the west side of the God's Eye, we found a 2-year-old. Yeah, that's literally the whole chapter, like as far as plot wise.
Yeah. So they come up on this place, and Yoren goes in with 2 other named fellers, Merch and Cutjack.
Yep.
They got some good names, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, weird. All these guys, and what's funny is all these guys only have first names. None of these guys have last names, right? Peasants
You think
don't have last
Cutjack
names.
is that dude's first name?
I think some of them are actually last
Peasants-
names. Like you call somebody, that's just
We hear
blah, blah, blah.
in the next
Last
Dunk
name.
and Egg book that most peasants don't have last names. So I'm assuming most of these are actually first names.
okay. All right.
Again, I don't know how much peasants these guys are. All
I just
we know they're criminals,
assumed
but they could be
Cutjack
merchants.
was like a nickname, like
And
Hot
that
Pie.
it also might be a nickname. Yeah, I'm sure Hot Pie is a nickname.
It is
So,
a nickname.
Yeah.
No, Hot Pie is definitely his first name.
So they're gone. They're gone a little while. Arya's getting antsy. Like, can we go get him? It's been a while. Gendry's like, no, Yoren told us to wait. We're gonna wait. And they come back. We kind of said it. They
Yeah,
bring
what's
this girl
something new
who's-
though here?
Huh.
Well, Gendry, first off, he said we should wait because he was scared.
He's
to
wearing
go
his
in.
helmet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bull's wearing the helmet for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
he's
like
obviously scared.
he's like Yorn said we should wait out here, like because he did not want to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why I thought this chapter would be a good one for that Ned quote to be dropped. But the thing is, none of them really do anything brave. Is the thing. So
Yeah,
they're all scared.
like, there would
but
need to
nobody
be,
really does
like-
anything brave.
A fight or something. Like
Yeah,
Look.
exactly. So they all Gendry says that, and so they end up waiting. Yoren comes back, and like we said earlier, what do they bring back with them? They bring back this little girl. Arya says
2-year-old.
probably less than 2.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
never realized that. Like when reading this book before, I assumed this girl. I don't know why. I always assumed she was at least like 4 or 5. Like, can a 2-year-old walk? Or I guess so, but not like all day.
2-year-olds
long.
are walking.
No,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean they're not
Right,
walking
yeah.
forever, but
And they're
And
gonna be slow.
talking a little bit.
they're making noises more or less. If she's younger than 2, she's probably making some noises.
Jeff knows a lot of babies, so Jeff's the baby expert.
I've been around a lot of babies recently.
She's got a lot of big family events he's always at and never hangs out with me.
Yeah.
I know he's always with babies.
Yeah.
So
Got those
this
babies.
kid should be talking. So they're like when she said the kid wasn't talking, I was like, well, it's 2. Is that uncommon? But I guess that's uncommon.
It's also a peasant, so it's not getting
Well, she
taught
said it was just
properly.
like whimpering and
Yeah.
like it sounded like it's seen some shit too, though.
Okay. I just assumed that's what 2-year-olds did, was just like
They're-
cried and whimpered.
yeah, like
Especially when there's no like mom, you have like Yoren and a bunch of criminals taking care of a baby. Like
Especially
It's
when
not
you
gonna be
see
the happiest
people
baby
getting
in the world,
staked
right?
you
and
can probably
burned
throw some
alive.
words around, but yeah, they're making more or less noises.
okay. But yeah, so they got the woman's in bad shape. She is obviously like in shock. She like can't even talk. Arya said like her eyes are just like distant stare.
Yeah.
And her arm's just gone at the elbow.
Yeah, and they don't even say like, is it still bleeding? Did they
Well, it,
cauterize the
Bloody
wound?
stump at her.
Well, it sucks. Like, we're not gonna have to go down that road too far, but just like think about this whole village was burned except for this one woman. This woman's probably got the worst of everything, right? She probably didn't survive by being clever, especially if she didn't like hide it out, especially not if her arm's missing.
You think they just
right? So,
chopped
like,
her arm off and like, all right, sit here.
I doubt they just chopped her arm off and let her sit there. Is what I'm saying. Like, right, use your imagination. But the bad shit probably happened to this woman.
She
which
played
is,
dead. I bet she played
on top
dead.
on top of her arm being cut off. Some other shit probably happened to this
You're
lady.
saying they raped her?
I was trying to say
Yes,
that
that's what
word,
you're
but
saying.
yes.
Yeah.
We
I'll cut that out.
literally had a chapter in book 1 where the whole city
I mean,
gets
people.
raped.
There's a lot more rape that happens in this book, but yeah, like this lady's obviously been
Spoilers.
traumatized by more than just her.
I wasn't
getting her arm
thinking
cut
that.
off, which is
I was
enough.
I
thinking
mean,
maybe-
I think I'm on whoever said played dead. I think
Yeah,
that's
I think she played dead.
because
You get your arm cut off, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna play dead now. You're not just gonna scream.
I mean,
You're
or
gonna
she
be
just
like,
passed out.
Yeah, she could have
And-
passed out from the pain.
maybe pass out from the pain. Even then,
They played dead for her. Whatever, it's not important. They start walking again. I have it written down.
Well, they like
they're all
chained her in
scared,
the back
right?
of the wagons.
And everyone's starting to admit that they're scared.
And Hot Pie confesses that he was scared because
Yeah.
she's like now she's like thrashing later on.
And we get a little confession from Hot Pie too.
Yeah. Something we all suspected. He never actually kicked anybody to death.
Hey,
Kicking
Ari, I
his-
never kicked no one in the
nuts to
balls till they died.
I never truly kicked no boy to death, Ari. I just sold my mommy's pies, is all.
death. So Hot Pie's opening up to Ari. We may have a blooming friendship here, Kyle. Any predictions about that? 'Cause I don't know what
I
else
don't
we're
think
gonna
they're
get.
going to be good friends, but I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things. It's just who you're with. Like she's
Yeah.
So we get a little weird story from Arya here about giants and the others here?
Oh yeah, so the story she's heard from old Nan, right? And I think the only thing is like there might be there's not much in the story, right? It's really short, and the only thing is that she feels like this person because basically she's between a rock and a hard place. Like she just escaped a place she thought was really bad, and is in a place that is not much better.
That makes sense. I was like kind of like, what's the point of this story here?
I think that's the only point here because she's like, now I know what that guy feels like. But the story is right. He was in a dark castle by evil giants, King's Landing, the Maegor's Holdfast, Lannisters. He was very brave and smart, and he tricked the giants and escaped. Arya escaping, but no sooner was he outside the castle and the others took him and drank his red hot blood. Now she's outside and there's just like bad shit going on literally everywhere.
Okay, I think
that's the only.
The situation didn't improve much, is what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And she says now she knows how that guy must have felt.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know. Nothing in
not
this chapter,
too important.
Like,
it's just like it seemed really out of place to me. But what you said makes sense.
There's nothing really to talk. Like there's nothing. Everything's really surface level in this chapter. Yeah. So yeah, the woman died immediately. She didn't even make it a day. Right? She's dead that night.
Died that night.
And we didn't really say it, but the whole time she was just whispering, "Please, please." She didn't like. She wasn't saying anything except for "please" over.
You would have thought like I don't know, Yoren being Yoren, maybe he like gives her a good death.
Just kills her right away. Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do that. But
I mean, they got a kid with him. Yeah, it's sad.
I mean, if she died this quickly, you can't. Yeah, there's no
way
they
thought
she was going to make
known.
it, right?
Yeah.
Did they think she was going to survive like a week?
I don't know.
I don't know
either. But whatever.
So they bury her on a hill.
Yeah, on
it's actually pretty nice.
She gets.
Well, it's. I mean, everything in the chapter is on the point. They bury her on a hill, and then the only thing is when they bury her, there's a willow tree, and Arya hears the leaves whispering, "Please, please, please." Mm-hmm. Like she thinks that the wind hitting the leaves is whispering, "Please, please, please." Right.
Creepy.
And then it scared her out. Like made her hair on the back of her neck stand up. She almost wanted to just run away. And then that night, Yoren's kind of spooked, so he says no fire. They only ate berries and beans. They drank some water that Arya thought tasted a little funny.
She drank a ton of it, though.
She drank a lot of it because she wanted to fill her belly.
That's the key when you're hungry. It's just
it was contaminated with dead body juice.
That's what Lame tells her. But yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. When I'm on one of my hardcore diets, that's always what I do. Just drink like 2 gallons of water a day. Yeah. So
Arya wakes up because she has to pee because she's got all this water in her belly or through her belly now in her bladder. Hot Pie's on guard and he stops her.
Yep.
You ain't going out in the woods. Stop her?
There's wolves out there.
Out of all the people she snuck behind, like she couldn't sneak behind fucking Hot Pie.
I don't know that she was trying to be sneaky at that point. I think she was just getting up to pee. Like she was like, I'm going to go out in the woods and pee.
Yeah, and what Hot Pie says here is that Yoren said that like tonight of all nights, for some reason, right? It doesn't seem like they're any more danger. I mean, I guess they're close to this village that probably just got burnt by people, right?
Yeah, and
so that's why they're
had to have
staying
been
close.
Recent as well.
Yeah.
Well, he also said earlier wolves are probably going to come to eat the dead bodies.
Oh yeah, and
shit.
actual wolves. So he tells them not to go too far. And Arya says like don't go too far. Or Hot Pie tells Arya like. He said no one's allowed to go anywhere. Like, just go piss on that tree or whatever. So she's like, oh, wait. And he's like, and I heard wolves out there. And she's like, oh, wait, wolves, oh, fuck. And she like pretends to be scared and runs back. For true. She runs back, gets in her blankets, pretends to go to sleep. Once Hot Pie like wanders off, she gets up and walks, sneaks out the other side of camp and goes twice as far. Yeah. So like kind of what Jeff was saying earlier, like Arya's always off on her own here. She's like riding ahead of the column earlier. Here, when Hot Pie literally just said like a minute ago, we're not supposed to go anywhere tonight. She says she goes twice as far, and then she gets surrounded by wolves.
But she's fucking Arya Stark, man. She don't listen to anybody.
She doesn't listen
right?
well.
She takes Needle to piss though.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like she's not. I know that the whole chapter is kind of them all realizing that they're scared, but she hasn't been really scared yet, I guess.
Yeah.
She told Hot Pie she was scared when the lady was thrashing.
Yeah, I mean,
she's scared from like a distance, but I think she was scared when the gold cloaks were there too, right? I mean, a little bit, not too scary, but
a little bit. But I think she still has been pretty fearless overall, I'd say, and like this is kind of her like still like I fucking go pee in the woods. That's what I do.
Yeah. So then she went out, starts pissing, and then bang, 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 bang. She just sees eyes popping up all over the place.
That's gotta be.
She says 12 eyes, so at least 6 wolves. Maybe more, just a whole pack. She's terrified. She like grabs for Needle right away, and then one wolf comes up, kind of like stares her down, bares his teeth, and then she's just thinking like, "Oh fuck, when they find my body, everyone's gonna be like,
Hot Pie is
Popeye's
just gonna
be
make
like,
fun.
I told her
there was wolves out here.
Yeah, that's all she's thinking about. But this wolf just like doesn't give a fuck. dips, runs off into the woods with his other wolf pals.
So I guess there is something here to say though. Is like, do we think these wolves had something to do with Nymeria? And now you guys probably know, but go ahead.
Towards the end, that's what I was gonna say. Like now that I'm done, now that like that whole sequence is over, it's definitely weird, right? Like even when she goes back and talks to Yorn about it, he says something like, "Your kind shouldn't be afraid of wolves. I thought your kind liked wolves." And it's weird that Arya lost a wolf that we heard in the last chapter. There's like this pack of wolves with a crazy she bitch, and now these wolves come up to Arya, have her surrounded.
She doesn't really describe this like wolf that steps out to give us any clue of.
Yeah, there's no.
Well, she calls it a he.
No.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, she does call it a he.
I mean,
like,
did she just like see his
Nymeria.
pecker? Like,
I guess.
it's kind of hard. Maybe she saw his pecker, but
We could talk about this in split section, but we don't know anything more really about this than you do at this point, Kyle. So like, I think we can just talk about it here. Like, just as much as you do, I think there's something weird that it's weird that Arya is the wolf.
I mean, we do know that there's
a wolf is probably out here, and this wolf is obviously like probably would kill any other person. Like something weird's going on, but like I don't know.
Like Hot Pie would have got munched on for sure.
Like I would bring it up in the split section, but at this point we're just gonna have the exact same conversation we just had. So
yeah,
if
definitely
else has anything
goofy.
to say about it.
But yeah. All right. So
I think it's badass as fuck, and Arya's got, and kind of like what Kyle was just saying. I didn't really
what's
take it this
badass
way,
about it? She doesn't do anything. She gets lucky as fuck that this wolf walks away.
I mean, it's kind of badass, dude. I'd feel badass if I not in the moment you'd be like shitting yourself, but afterwards you're like, fuck.
I mean, she literally said she was like,
these wolves are scared of me,
wolf.
dude.
I'd be like, I'm the wolf whisperer. Are you kidding me? If that happened to you, you wouldn't be like. I mean, I'd do what she does. I'd get my fucking britches up and get the hell back to camp. But I'd be like, fuck yeah.
I mean, I guess, but it's luck. It's more luck than.
Mm-hmm. For
I
sure.
mean, I guess you
I feel like you
can tell your friends
badass.
like, "Hey, I did this really cool thing," but you really just got lucky.
So that's what she does. She goes back to camp, hops in wherever Yorn is in the back of a wagon.
Just
right?
always sharpening his sword.
Yeah, she went back to Yarn and kind of reported like, yeah, there's definitely fucking wolves out there, and he's like,
he's like, oh, yep.
Well, you said this already. Yeah, he's like, seems to me your kind was fond of wolves, and he's like, Nymeria was a dire wolf.
She kind of gives him the Nymeria backstory.
Yeah, exactly. So now he knows, I guess, to some degree that she has this wolf that's out there.
Yeah. She wolf, she bitch wolf.
Yeah.
And they're pretty fucking big right now too. Like Grey Wind, we know is
that's what I'm
pretty
saying.
big.
That's why I don't think it was Nymeria, right, that came up to her.
No.
She would have been like, "Oh my god, this wolf is huge."
I think she would have known too.
Yeah.
I think she would have been able to tell.
Yeah.
And then she starts talking about like Ned again, and he's like, "Who the fuck's Ned?" Pretty much.
Well, she says if Nymeria would have been with me in the city,
my father would still be alive. And he's like, "You ain't got no father." Yeah.
Orphan boys ain't got no fathers.
You fucking forget. Like
Yorn's a mean guy.
That's why he says the thing we've been talking about the
the
whole
only
time.
wolves who got to fear are the ones who wear man skin, like those who done
what
for that.
What does that
village.
mean?
So that's why I'm saying it's not the Starks. It's
I see what you're saying now.
Those who done for that village. It's the fucking people that have no morals, no sense.
I agree with Kyle.
Like you just talked about impaling people and cutting arms off, raping people.
Yeah,
those are the wolves. That's all. That's all. For sure. He wasn't. I guess what I'm getting at is that he's not afraid of the Starks. By them, like
per se,
for being the Starks.
I'm not convinced, but I 100% see it, and I'm not as convinced of my own argument anymore.
I don't agree with your argument at all.
I think later.
Yeah, I never did.
Maybe, I mean, we've already heard it, but I think even more so later, you would definitely hear people referring to like armies of people as their sigils.
Yeah,
I understand.
I feel like we've done that already, but.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay,
I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that in this instance, he's saying that like
I know what you're saying.
People can be just as evil,
or if not worse, than the animals that you're afraid of.
This is also where we get the conversation about Ewing only losing 3 people in 30 years.
Yep.
It's kind of weird. He mentions that they should have taken a ship, but he's always taken the King's Road. So it's like why a ship? Like now because you've seen all the bullshit that you've seen, or
because of the war.
Because of the war.
Right. He says he always takes the King's Road so we can get new recruits along the way.
Yeah.
But now, like, he's like, fuck, I probably should have known. again, it wasn't kicking off quite as bad when they left the city.
Yeah.
But, like, it was kicking off. People were coming in.
But even to like what we know of the Night's Watch, like they're obviously not a part of any wars. Like they should be able to walk cleanly through if the realm
100%.
respects
They
them.
should be able to.
And
I think that's
possibly
part
with
of
all the
why-
people fleeing their hometown, maybe it's like, hey, like you want to come with us? Like you'll be safe.
Exactly. I think that's maybe why he's pissed off too, is because like he thought that that's how this would go, and it's not at all how this is going. No one respects them at all. It's just every man for himself out there.
Yeah. So Arya goes back to sleep and
Tries to.
She's hearing some whispers in the wind that might have
She hears
been
wolves
distant
and a
screaming.
screaming noise. Yeah, that might have been screams.
Distant screams.
Distant screams.
It was screams.
Probably screams.
Probably wolves killing some people.
All right, I don't know. We're pretty much not too much different than the last time. We're maybe a little bit safer from the gold cloaks, if anything, because we're off the road. But even then, it did seem like there's like several roads that just like, because she says that when Yoren said like, oh, we're going to stay off the King's Road, she says they just took the next pair of ruts that were going to the left.
Yeah.
Right. They just literally like took the next road they saw. So there are offshoots. So I guess if there's more than one offshoot, it might be tricky for the Kings or the gold cloaks to follow them if they're just got to pick a random offshoot, but I'm assuming they're all kind of go to the same place anyway. But if anything that plot wise happened in this chapter, they maybe got a little bit safer from the gold cloaks.
That's about it.
And they picked up a 2-year-old.
Anything else to talk about? Kyle, predictions? Anything else?
I mean, they can't
From
just keep
Glow
walking
Jeff?
along this road and have nothing happen. Like, I mean, it can't be the book of just.
It can't be
Arya
that
on this
simple.
road, right? Like, I mean, and
Could be.
I know I've said this before, but that's unfortunate that I'm inferring outside the story. But
Meta gaming. You're meta gaming.
a little
this,
meta
this
there,
podcast.
just like knowing that this has to have some sort of action for her throughout here. But
I wonder if this chapter could be a rising action almost.
well, yeah, like I mean, I guess I'm gonna just stick with what I said last time. I think they'd probably get in some sort of trouble, but Nymeria or the wolves show up and help her out. That's I think all I can really get at here.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I'll take that prediction.
Oh, actually, one more thing though. I guess we did see a little spoiler section here for the next chapter. Is newbie.
Oh,
Davos.
new POV.
I saw
Sci-fi a little
that.
bit, but it said
Oh, yeah, I
Davos
wanted to.
coming up next.
Yeah, I did want to bring that up. So I accidentally spoiled this for you earlier. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do. But
When I
I
had
tried
our-
to forget. I try and forget any of the spoilers that
Yeah.
I try not to think about it, and I try not to like research.
Yeah, when our artist finished he recently finished the illustration for Davos to put on the podcast art, and I just forgot that Kyle didn't know who the next that he was like a first time POV, and I was like,
think
oh,
that
look
was-
at this, he did a pretty good job. He did a good job on the art, and I like pulled up, and Kyle's like, oh, that's a spoiler, and I was like,
Well, that was my favorite part though. Is that I think the whole way through the first book, you're like, I'm not telling you who the new narrator's going to be.
I
I'm not
know.
telling you. There's a new one. And then you blew it yourself.
I know.
Do you have
Well,
any
it
idea
sucks.
who he is?
I mean, so Nelson and I did talk about that. I knew I heard his name before, but he was from Crescent's chapter. He's the Onion Knight or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, Nelson just spoiling everything for you.
no,
I just asked him if he remembered who he was
I'm
because we
just
did hear him
kidding.
before.
Yeah,
we got a lot of his backstory in that
Yeah.
first Crescent chapter.
No, I mean, that was
Black
forever
shit.
ago. There was no shot the first time I remember who he was.
So I guess before we read that chapter, do you want to give any predictions? Because
I have no
we
fucking clue.
know, well, we know kind of what was going on with Stannis a little bit. That was only 8 chapters ago, right? And obviously that POV died because Crescent died at the end of that chapter. Like,
Yeah,
but now we're getting a new POV, presumably still with Stannis.
hopefully. I would assume so, yeah.
So you can make predictions based off the Crescent chapter if
Well, I
you
mean,
wanted
it's going to
to.
be Stamos.
John Stamos.
Yeah, it's going
He's
to
a
be
good actor.
Stannis' army marching, or at least heading towards King's Landing is my guess. Gathering to go to King's Landing.
Okay, cool.
All right.
It's a long one, I think. I mean, it take a lot of time to take notes, but we'll get to it. All right. We'll see you guys in the spoiler section. Kyle, see you next week.
See you later, Cal.
Bye, guys.
Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! See you later, Cal. It was great
Bye,
hanging
Kyle.
out, bud. We'll
Bye-bye,
see you on the
Kyle.
next episode for Davos
Get
1.
the hell
New
outta here,
guy.
Kyle.
Let's
Davos
go.
won. And Kyle, I told him that there was 2 new POVs, but he seemed to forgot, so I didn't refresh his memory.
Good job. Good job. And now on to the spoiler section for Arya 3. Boys, not a lot of hot takes, but what are yours for this one?
Action-packed spoilers. I got one.
Go ahead.
What is it?
Not even a spoiler. It's just like a note. As they were walking into the burnt down spot, ravens flew away and were calling at the other ravens.
Yeah, I mean,
Calling at the caged ones.
I noticed that too. I didn't know. I kind of just took that to mean that the place was empty. Like it's a sign that there was no one there. The fact that when Yoren walked in, there was birds there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was just getting some like Three-Eye Raven vibes and some old god vibes through like the whispering in the woods.
That's what I thought you were going to pick up on, was the thing that I said that you were going to skip over, where when they buried the mom on the hill, Arya heard what she was saying through the willow leaves, right?
So maybe her body is gone through the old gods, but
it wasn't a, what's it called? A weirwood tree. It was a willow tree. So that was the only reason I disregarded that. Like I thought the same thing, but then I was
still
like,
weird though, right? Like I don't know if it means anything, but it's weird. Like it's weird, especially like when I don't know if you guys, if I've talked about it at all with you guys, but I'll talk about it, I'm sure, as we go on further. There's like a lot of like blood sacrifice in front of weirwoods too. Like the old gods definitely used to like kill people in front of, or like the first men used to like kill people in front of weirwoods and stuff. And if your blood goes into, so I think there's something about like if you die and your blood goes into the roots and you like live forever as part of that like forever consciousness weirwood net thing, right? There's a lot of like theories that that's what's going on, but regardless, there's a lot of like blood sacrifice, killing people in front of weirwoods. So you're right that it's a willow, but there's like kind of that double similarity where we're getting this like whispering in the leaves, which gives that old god, but also they buried her like not at the base of this willow, but on a hill below a willow. It's like,
I mean, if you think
roots
go far enough to connect, and
well, I mean, that's the whole point of the weirwood net, right? Is if you spill your blood and your blood goes into the weirwood net, you become part of that thing, and you live on through that tree. Which the weirwood net is like a tree that's connected continuously underground to all the other weirwoods or whatever, however it works, right? There's some weird shit with the weirwoods, but if you believe that that's how it works, where if you die and your blood goes into the tree, then you live on through that tree or whatever. This lady's buried. The only thing she was saying, her, like, again, it's hard to say, but like her blood potentially goes into the roots, and now the leaves are whispering, please, 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 please. So I don't know. There's definitely nothing like surefire to it, but that is I
was a big proponent of Asha being able to like hear the old gods kind of through the wind of the trees and whatnot, and so I definitely think it's something. I think it was just weird to say like
that was a weirwood though that Asha was listening to. To your point.
Yeah, I mean, but it wasn't around just like other ones too. Like I don't know, whatever. But she obviously had seen it before. I don't know how many weirwoods are north of the wall. I guess there was probably a bunch, but whatever. Like she's seen the wind push the trees around and heard things before, or whatever, taking signs from her. But I just thought it was weird that he mentioned that the free ravens had a conversation to the caged ones.
Yeah, they're like talking to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that.
Like other than like them just like cawing, like he said conversation. But
it's just one of those things, like kind of like we said in the non-spoiler section. There's a bunch of just like things that are dropped in this chapter, like the old Nan story. That just like, why does this belong here? It seems like there's something more to this, but
there's not.
That I can think of.
I think you're right when you said it was surface level.
Know what I mean? Like it makes me wonder, and it again, like maybe George. I always like. We praise George so much, but it makes me like I don't want to hype myself up for stuff. When I find chapters like this where I dig through it and I can't really find much that like is like super deep foreshadowing. Like the Willows thing is one thing. I have one thing that I'm going to touch on that I think is a pretty good foreshadow. But like besides that, there's really nothing in this chapter besides like tone setting and world building. And maybe that's what he's doing. I'm not an author, but like when I see that, and especially knowing how all the other chapters are, I'm like, is there going to be like in Winds? Is this going to be a chapter that we want to reread? And then that story from Old Nan is going to like parallel something perfectly. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's like a bunch of shit that like parallels.
It's so goofy because Old Nan's story is it's such a small story.
Yeah.
Compared to the other ones we hear of the Night King or the Night's King. And like, this is like literally a sentence and it's like, what? Like, there's no way you remember this or like, when you do read Winds of Winter or the next one, it's like, oh wait, I remember this one Arya chapter that was actually boring as shit and nothing happened.
Yeah,
but like, there was that story.
There was 3 sentences about a guy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard. Like maybe, but like I don't know. That's the only thing I can think is maybe there's more coming that when we reread this chapter after wins, it'll make more sense. I'm sure there's chapters that like when we read them the first time with Kyle, they kind of suck, but then in the spoiler section we're geeked up about them, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I'm sure those exist. It's just hard to believe that would exist from like the ninth chapter in Clash to Winds, which is like 3,000 pages from now, and nothing would have come up. So yeah, it might just be a world building chapter, whatever. Glo, did you have anything?
I literally had nothing.
So
nothing of importance.
I have two little foreshadowing things.
Before you get into it, Nelson, let me say one thing. When Glo was doing his recap of the chapter, you called the group the Band of Brothers. And I was like,
I was joking.
I was like, oh shit, like spoiler, like he just told him about the Brotherhood without banners. I was like, what the fuck's Glo doing?
I was thinking about that.
Is he reading the wrong chapter? But then like I was literally about to text you guys and I was like, wait, he said Band of Brothers, not Brotherhood without banners. Like, we're okay. I was like,
yeah, I was just, I wasn't even thinking about that. So I think kind of what you were just saying there, I think part of what this chapter is kind of like what we were saying with Kai, where it's setting the theme, talking about like how bad war is. Arya's next two books is in what this chapter, like this chapter is what? How long was it for you guys? How many pages? Like 9? 10?
It's short. It's not. Yeah, it's
really
one of the shorter ones for sure.
I think it's short, and it's just saying like, yo, this is what the Riverlands is during this war.
8 pages.
Right? Because next chapter is the big fight, right? They're hold up in the hold fast. This is the rise of action to the climax. They hold up in the hold fast, big fight. Arya escapes, right? After that, they get captured, go to Harrenhal. After Arya escapes Harrenhal, she's literally in this environment for an entire book, Storm of Swords, right? Her whole Harrenhal story is pretty much this book. And then her in the Riverlands with the Brother Without Banners and with the Hound, that's all Storm of Swords. And then she's in Essos for the last book or the last 2 books, right? So
Bravos.
I think this chapter is just being like, this is where Arya's going to be for 2 more books. Like for again,
that's
like
crazy to
pages,
think about.
Arya is in this type of environment where there's just burned villages to the shit.
She sees some pretty fucked up shit. Yeah.
Ladies with their arms cut off, right? Like this is where Arya is going to be for the next 2 books. And again, Kyle doesn't know that, but I think it's kind of like setting the tone. Like, yeah, Kat heard it was bad. This is us showing it's bad, and Arya is actually going to live it for 2 more books. And this is just
it kind of speaks to kind of who she becomes, right? She becomes kind of this harder.
She gets hardened. She doesn't give a fuck about seeing dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can become a killer.
Yeah, exactly. You again, I am on the side that Arya does a lot of shit that people are like, yeah, fuck yeah, Arya. But when you think about it, she's like an 11-year-old murdering somebody because like they're a Night's Watchman who sang a song in a brothel, right? Like she doesn't know he's breaking his, like he tells Sam he's, or maybe he does tell Arya that he's breaking his vow forever. Whatever. She does some definitely questionable stuff, and people would kind of hoorah her for it. Where if she was like a 25-year-old dude doing the same thing, people probably wouldn't hoorah her for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think you can definitely see where that comes from the environment that you said to live in for 2 years, right? She probably spends like about 2 years in this environment that we read about in this chapter. Just 2 things for foreshadowing. The Lami says there's bodies in the water upriver.
Yeah, so, that's Cat.
It's not there yet, but yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's upriver from here, this water will be full of a ton of bodies. One of them is Cat.
Well, there's probably some. He's probably not wrong.
Well, Cat's not dead.
I mean, there's probably bodies up there.
Well, it's not Cat, but I'm sure there's at least one dead body there.
Yeah, you're right. Lami's probably right, but what you were saying is exactly what I was thinking of. This is, I think, foreshadowing to Cat.
There's going to be dead bodies in the water, but. He's probably right too. Like it's definitely foreshadowing. Right. Cat's gonna end up face first in the. And
kind of what I think of whenever I hear something like that is, there's like again, it's never like really proven, but I think there's like hints that like when Starks or when like wargs or whatever, there's a few things that like enhance their warg abilities. One is like cannibalism. People think that at the House of, I'm getting the hiccups or I'm getting like the drunk burps because I've been drinking whiskey for
the whiskey burps.
Yeah. People think at the House of Black and White they're feeding Arya people because she says like she got meat and she never wanted to ask what it was, and if she did, they're like, oh, it's just pork or whatever like that. But she was questioning it, and then after that, that's when she like starts being able to warg into cats and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Bran, people think the whole Jojin paste thing. Right? They're literally purposely feeding him Jojin paste to increase his abilities. If Arya is drinking human water, and she does say she drinks a fuck ton of it. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we do, but like in the next few Arya chapters, if we start getting more like wolf dreams and stuff like that, maybe
she's
again it's hard to relate. But she's
drinking human water.
I agree with you, Jeff.
water.
Right? You just said there's probably bodies in the water upriver, and if she is, she's definitely drinking something
That's
she
a cool
probably shouldn't be
point,
drinking.
and maybe that's why the wolves didn't attack her, because like they could feel like a weird war connection.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that too. Like, I didn't plan on really talking about it in the non-spoiler section because I don't think there is, or in
Because
this
we talked about it.
because we talked about it, right? But like,
Is
there
it a
anything with
Nymeria child?
thing? Like,
It's got to be like a Nymeria. It's got to be like, why would
it's
the
not
wolf
her.
walk
It's
away?
not her. Obviously, not
It's
her
not her
child. Like, Nymeria
but,
didn't
like,
give birth to
probably
this
part of her
wolf.
pack.
Yeah,
why
part of her
couldn't
pack.
Why couldn't Nymeria have a wolf child?
Like a
It's
child?
only been like what?
It's been a year. It's been less than a year.
How long does it take a wolf to reproduce?
Well, I mean,
Well,
maybe not a
definitely been
year,
over
but
a
it's not
year.
going to be
Grown.
a. It's not
She
going to be
wasn't
a
even
wolf
fully
leading
grown.
a sub pack.
I mean, Nymeria wasn't fully grown. I don't know how long it.
Yeah, like I doubt Nymeria could even have babies at that point.
Well, all right, so
Which is one of her pack for sure. Like Nymeria is definitely leading. Some
yeah,
huge pack,
okay.
right?
Wolves begin breeding between 2 and 3 years of age.
Yeah. So I mean, Nymeria couldn't
Mating
even have
occurs
babies.
between January and March.
But I mean, there's definitely something weird, right? There's got to be part of Nymeria's pack. Nymeria had some control, knew Arya, or the Starks are just like in tune with fucking wolves, right? We've never seen another Stark in a situation where a wolf could eat them if they wanted
it
to.
only takes two months for the wolves to be born, though. So
Oh shit!
Damn, really?
yeah, it says the gestation
kinda
period
badass.
is 60 to 63 days. The cubs, so mating season is February, March. The cubs are born mid-May. So
That's kind of
That is
badass.
fucking
So it's
fast,
possible.
dude.
if she could reproduce, I mean, we know dire wolves grow faster than a normal wolf. So
That's pretty fucking badass.
all right, so let's say it's not one of her children. Like,
It's,
if
I'm a
it's,
90%.
do you think there's a chance that Nymeria?
10% for you.
Do you think there's a chance Nymeria is like warging other wolves, or like has like a little bit of control over its
It's what I'm saying.
surroundings?
Like, it's either that or all Starks have some like just shit in their blood. Like, maybe we don't
Yeah.
know, but maybe if we had a Ned chapter where Ned got surrounded by wolves, maybe they just back off from Ned. Ned never.
Maybe
had a
they
dire
just
wolf that
like
we know
bow
of.
down since he's head of the Stark family, and then he
Yeah.
becomes alpha.
So like, there's definitely something weird, and it's related to Nymeria, Wolf, Arya, House Stark, blah blah blah. But I don't know what it is. We can't really put a finger on it, so I don't think it's worth spending
Yeah.
too much time on. The
For
only
sure.
other thing I had was when they see the fire in the north, I forget what the exact quote is, but it basically says like it looks like the whole north is ablaze, which
Yeah.
I think is just foreshadowing to the rest of this
Mance
book. Right?
Raider.
I mean, halfway through. So the next
Is
chapter
that
is
is
Davos.
it this book when Mance
Next-
Raiders?
Well, no, but the next chapter is Davos. The chapter after that's Theon. This is the This book is the
so
book
the
where
North
Theon
just-
goes to the Iron Islands and then comes back and takes over Winterfell. That's all this book. So I think like her saying it looked like as the fire grew, it looked like the whole North was ablaze. The whole North basically it doesn't
That's a
burn,
good
but
foreshadow.
like
yeah.
everything just goes to shit in the North this entire book. Like nothing goes well up north for this
Yeah.
entire book. I mean, from a
Bran
Stark
ex-
perspective.
Bran escapes.
Bran.
Could be-
So
could
the
be
last chapter of this book is Bran, and the chapter starts off him being summer outside Winterfell and coming into the burnt Winterfell and finding him in the crypts hiding with Asha, right? And it's weird because Jojen has a vision. He says like, "I saw a vision of you and your brother in the crypts with your father and everything, and Winterfell was burned." And they're like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do? We're gonna die." And it's because they hid in the crypts of Winterfell. Blah 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 blah. Obviously, Kyle. Those are things that Kyle might be able to pick up on, but we'll see.
Hmm. All right. Yeah,
I don't have anything else for
have
this chapter.
anything else.
I'm excited for a new POV though, Davos.
Yeah. that'll be
It's
fun.
going to be probably a lot of new people. So Kyle predicted that Stannis is going to be going to King's Landing. Do either of you guys know what happens in this first Davos chapter? Same as the first Davos chapter in the show.
Well, is he an emissary to Renly? On this
No,
show?
so in the Crescent chapter, he told Crescent that I'd come back from being an emissary to all the Storm Lords, and they all said no.
That's right. Yeah.
So now the first time we see
So I guess
Davos
they're meeting
after
with,
that is it's on a beach on Dragonstone.
Salador San.
They're burning all the gods?
They're burning all the gods. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the next Davos chapter. So they're
Isn't
burning
in the
gods, and then I
show?
think-
Isn't Crescent there in the show when they do it? They do it before he tries
Yeah.
to strangle.
Yep, you're right. It's
her.
all the same scene.
Yeah.
You're right. Crescent is there. But yeah, this is Davos on the beach with burning the gods, and I think just like a session alone, probably with Stannis, and a lot of inner monologue. Oh, I'm the fucking onion guy. Nobody likes me, type thing.
Mhm.
But Davos does have a big storyline. Like he's there. I guess he's not Catelyn is the POV when Renly and Stannis meet each other, but we do get Davos again for the when Stannis meets with Courtney Penrose, who is the Castellan who's holding Storm's End. But Davos has like a pretty interesting storyline in this book. I think some of his Storm stored stuff is kind of boring, right? I'm sure Davos also gets a Battle of Blackwater POV towards the end.
Yeah, he does for sure.
All right, yeah, I don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything else?
I don't got shit.
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, let's make
That's
it short
it
and
for
sweet.
the Arya 3. Make sure you like and subscribe. Night is dark and full of terrors.